Nyakoma.
Nyakoma.
We can't be the only people who've heard. Take emotion out of it.
Yes.
It's one of the things that people say once things start getting emotional. So in this video, we want to talk about why you need to keep emotion in it and how keeping emotion in your intimate relationship, your sensitive conversations, is actually the way to decolonize your relationship.
You know, a lot of times you hear people say that a lot of men say to women, you're being too emotional, or women are emotional. Well, the truth of the matter is emotions are always connected to our intellect, right? That's number one. So every thought produces an emotion, and every emotion came from a thought. So they're inextricably tied, and they're two sides of the same coin. So we don't want to demonize emotion, but what we want to do is bring it up and make it equal to our rational thought. And we don't want to elevate intellect or rationale. We want to bring it in balance with our passionate emotions. Because the second point that's really true, nobody really takes action on anything unless their heart is in it, unless they have emotions. And so we have terms like, don't make moves unless your heart is in it, right? Be sure this is something that you're really feeling before you go to do it. These are all terms that reflect that emotion is extremely important in anything we do. So in the intimate relationship and in the communicative exchange between men and women, we don't want to demonize emotion. We don't want to shrink emotion. What we want to do is balance emotion and intellect. And as you always say, it's thousands of emotions we could be using, right?
Yeah, whatever language you speak, but we're speaking English, right?
Right.
There are at least 3,000 emotional words in English. But one of the challenges that we have, especially in the intimate relationship, is that we only label a few. And this is like a personal challenge. So for ourselves, we only ever talk about a few emotions, and they're typically, as Mantra always says, in the sad, mad, glad,
Cat in the hat.
in the most simple way, which is actually a great thing. But the subtleties of saying, hey, how are you? And a person saying, fine, all the time, it really makes it superficial when we talk to each other. And these are often the things that are the most important things that we're going through internally that we can't express externally. So it's really important to understand that indigenous culture, original people, accept and appreciate the fact that human beings have thought and emotion. And that's what makes us take action in the physical world, like Mansho was saying. Even if it's a trivial thing, like what you want to eat, you're typically making the decision, even under the understanding of want. There's some preference there. There's some emotion there. But we do it all the time in the kinds of jobs we'll have and where we decide to work. Once we're saying something is better or worse, that's an emotional type of thing. So we can't even make great decisions without emotion. The challenge is that we are able to deal with emotion, that we actually are able to take action based on the emotion, and that we take the best action. And I think the more practiced we are in dealing with our emotions and managing them and observing them, the better we can actually link the two that are already linked, but we can be aware of the link between what we're thinking about how we feel. And we share this often in the Black Love School. We actually have a whole class about it as the emotional fitness class that we really talk about using an emotional wheel and monitoring what your emotions are for the month and seeing if there are any patterns to the way that you emote. But then we also share this in Akoma Soul, because this is something that we take for granted. Emotion, likes and dislikes, it's what brings us together. And then as soon as we're together, we want to take emotion out of it. And that doesn't happen with our friend group. It doesn't happen with our family.
Doesn't happen
It's not going to
anywhere.
happen with our children. And it's not going to happen in the most emotional part of your life, which is your intimate relationship, where you want to be happy, fulfilled, and you want to reach all of your goals and live in purpose. All of those things are actually very emotional. So we tell people that it's important to be able to lead with emotion in the intimate relationship. And that's a little bit of an adjustment for men and women talking to each other, because we have different styles when it comes to communication.
Yeah, we want to emote with balance. And this is something that is germane and primary in Indigenous Black culture, wherever you see a balance of the masculine, feminine, the mother, father, God, the internal, the external, the seen, the unseen, you're dealing with Indigenous Black culture. In Indigenous Black culture, we don't demonize emotion. We don't raise intellect above emotion. And I think sometimes we, as an oppressed Black people, we get so caught up into demonizing emotion that we don't emotionally respond correctly to the phenomenon that's happening around us. And that's definitely true in our intimate relationships, because the realm of relationship is the realm of emotions, right? It is our love, our service that makes us interact. It is everything that we do in relationship, sexuality, everything is driven by emotion. It's not intellectual only. There is a logical progression part to it, but it is not greater somehow than the emotion. So, if you ever been in a relationship or just say a conversation with a really smart person that has no personality, but they have a lot of intellectual verbose, masturbation, it's like, ugh, let me get out of this conversation with this person because there's no energy involved. And some of us running around here talking about we sapiosexuals and all of these other terms that are foreign and alien to Indigenous Black culture that don't mean jack, because you can't translate that into an effective relationship. So in our premier relationship education program, Akoma Soul, we're teaching the skills and we're teaching how to balance the emotion, because you got your internal that manifests as your deep core beliefs, and then your external that manifests as the way you communicate with one another. So we want you to balance your emotions and bring them. Don't hide them. Don't try to say they're not important. Bring them to the forefront, and let's deal with each other with an intelligent emotional discourse.
Because one of the primary things, like Marsha was saying about action, is you're really only going to take unified action when you can sync in the emotional space, right? How
Absolutely.
important is something beyond the conversation is I have to share my emotion with my husband. He has to share emotion with me in order for us to really get on the same page. And this is something that brings most people to a challenge, right? To a conflict. And so when you're communicating, the very first thing that we want you to do is to just take inventory of your emotions this week. So say, how was I feeling? If you say, I feel happy today, we want you to go look up some other words for happy, right? For the subtleties of, am I really joyous? Am I optimistic? Am I content? Am I at peace? So that when we ask and answer the questions of how are you doing, we have more to say, right? And we have more to connect around. And it's not just about talking longer, right? It's about being more efficient in the way that we talk. So when we share the feel, understand, do with our clients, feel is the lead in this communication technique, in this communication strategy. But the whole strategy is less than 3 minutes, right? The entire thing is 3 minutes. So it's not about laboring over more, but it's really about being able to give someone something to hang on to that helps them connect to how you feel. So this week, monitor how you feel for yourself, and then decide, how could I describe the subtleties between my happiness in the morning and my happiness in the afternoon, or my sadness on one day and my sadness on the next day? How could I really say that in a word? Because the word means so much to us. Again, you're taking it in intellectually, logically, when you understand a language, but the imprint that any word leaves on you is actually emotional. And this is where we are in the intimate relationship. It's really an emotional space. So on that note, how are you feeling today? Drop a feeling word in the comments for how you're feeling right now as you're listening to this video. And then, of course, check out the emotional fitness class. The link is in the comments. And if you are interested in talking more about how you can communicate better in your intimate relationship, reach out to us for a complimentary soulmate strategy session where we can give you a little bit more insight into the feel, understand, do, and other ways that you can connect with your partner.
As always, Until we see you next time, we're greeting you in the emotional words of Indigenous Black culture and saying,
Niakoma.
Niakoma.